Welcome everyone to the 17th of July 2023 Council meeting. We've got a much bigger audience than we've had for quite some time, so welcome to everyone in the room this evening. I will now open the meeting at 7:04 p.m. and I will now pass you on to our Chief Executive Officer, Ms Alison Beckwith, who will read out the formalities of tonight's procedures.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome all. This is an ordinary meeting of Council, and as the Mayor indicated, my name is Alison Beckwith and I'm the Chief Executive Officer here at Banyule Council. Tonight's meeting is being held in person in accordance with the provisions of Council's governance rules and the Local Government Act 2020. The meeting is also being live streamed via Council's website and Facebook page. The live stream is not interactive. Any comments or private messages posted or directed to us via those means will not be presented to the Council group or have any bearing on tonight's meeting. Council's request to speak methods continue to allow participation of our residents without them having to attend meetings in person. Just to note some rules for public participation, please note that any public questions submitted to tonight's Council meeting will be read out by a member of our executive leadership team and a verbal response will be provided. The questions and responses will also be included in the meeting minutes that are released after this meeting. Council does not accept questions as part of its request to speak process. No statement may be derogatory, defamatory or directed to an individual councillor, member of staff, ratepayer or member of the public. A 2-minute time limit does apply to those of you that are here tonight requesting to speak, and the timer will be used and a warning will sound at the 1.5 minute mark just to let you know that it's time to start summing up. And if an officer is reading out on a resident's behalf, they will also sum up at that time. We ask that members of the gallery please check their phones and ensure that they're either switched off or on silent mode to avoid any disruptions. If any members of the public gallery depart the chamber whilst our meeting is still in progress tonight, I do ask that you please do not hold conversations just out in the foyer area because it does have an impact on our live stream and the viewers that are tuning in from home. I'll now introduce you to the councillors that are in attendance tonight, and I will start to my left. We have Deputy Mayor Councillor Alida McKern, Councillor Tom Melican, Councillor Peter Dimorales and Councillor Alison Champion. And the councillors to my right, the Mayor Councillor Peter Castaldo, Councillor Fiona Mitsonikos, Councillor Rick Garotti, Councillor Elizabeth Neely and Councillor Mark Di Pasquale. This evening we are also joined by our directors, Joel Alborn, Acting Director, City Development, Darren Bennett, Director, Assets and City Services, Mark Gilio, Director, Corporate Services, and Kath Brackett, Director, Community Wellbeing. We also have members of our governance team, IT team, and our JETS team coordinating tonight's live stream. We thank you for participating tonight and we hope you enjoy the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. And to begin the meeting, I would like to acknowledge that we are holding this meeting on the traditional land of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and we pay respects to all elders past, present and emerging who have resided in the area and have been an integral part of this region's history, and any Aboriginal people that may be joining us this evening. Council is also committed to values of diversity within the community, and I will now read out the Banyule's diversity statement that demonstrates this commitment. Our community is made up of diverse cultures, beliefs, abilities, bodies, sexualities, ages and genders. We are committed to access, equity, participation and rights for everyone. And for everyone, principles which empower, foster harmony and increase the well-being of an inclusive community. It's important I didn't miss anything there. Now, firstly, we'll move on to apologies. I note that there are no apologies this evening. Confirmation of minutes. for the ordinary meeting of council held on the 26th of June 2023. Can I please have a councillor to move and second? Councillor Grotti moved, seconded by Councillor Mitsonikos. I now put that motion forward. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We now move on to disclosures of interest. As required at any council meeting, councillors must declare a conflict of interest at the start of the meeting and leave the meeting when the item is presented to council. Councillors will be required to leave the meeting and return when the item has been resolved. At any point throughout the meeting, if any councillor recognises that they have a general or material interest, they can flag that at that point and follow the same procedure. Are there any disclosures of interest?
Yes, Mayor, I have an interest in item 6.2.
So Councillor Grotti has indicated conflict of interest. Councillor Grotti, could you please advise us on what grounds?
Yeah, a conflict owing to the fact that I live and own property in the area of that development application.
Thank you, and that's noted. We now move on to disclosures of interest of staff. Officers that are present, I now ask whether you have a conflict of interest in any items presented before council this evening. No conflicts of interest. We're now moving on to urgent business. I note there is no urgent business this evening. We now move on to petitions. I note there are no petitions. Now, councillors, we now move on to the body of the meeting, and I am seeking a procedural motion to bring forward an item that I think many in the audience are here to see tonight, item 6.2, to be the first item discussed this evening. Do I have a mover? Councillor Melican, seconded Councillor Dimerelos. I'll get it right one day. I now put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We'll now move on to item 6.2, and Councillor Grotti will leave the room for this item due to a conflict of interest. Do we need to close those doors? Oh, not allowed to, are we? Now moving on to 6.22 to 8 Glenmore Street, 44 to 50 Highview Crescent, and 35 Thornton Street, McLeod, proposed aged care development, P58 2021. Now, I have an understanding.
I'd just like to foreshadow the fact that I will be moving a deferment of this item until the following meeting.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I will note to those that are registered to speak this evening that this may be deferred and you have the opportunity to not speak if you so wish. Otherwise, you can continue to speak on the item this time, and you'll have the opportunity to speak in the following meeting as well. I will first call up Stuart Rodney from Mayflower. Will address council in person if he so chooses, speaking for the recommendation. Stuart, you may approach the lectern. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors and members of the public, for allowing me to address you this evening. I'm the CEO of Mayflower, the very proud CEO of Mayflower. We're a leading not-for-profit provider of residential aged care, home care and independent living. We have facilities in Brighton, Reservoir, Pascoe and McLeod. And we have a very long and distinguished history of caring for older Australians within the community. For more than 60 years, we've been operating within our communities, and as I said before, we're a not-for-profit organisation. What does that mean? It means that we don't have a lot of shareholders with vested interests, and we don't pay large dividends. Everything that we make, we reinvest within the communities in which we operate. We're a values-based organisation, and we enable elderly people to remain within their communities as long as they possibly can. We don't on-sell our homes, and we don't exit the markets where we have actually constructed buildings. We operate the homes that we built, and as I say, we've been doing that for more than 60 years, and we're not a fly-by-night organisation. If we look at the demographics of Greater Melbourne, the reality is that about 14% of individuals within Greater Melbourne area are over the age of 65. McLeod has about a 17% over the age of 65 demographic, and therefore we believe that there is a need for us to continue the services that we've been providing in McLeod. The facilities we have there, which was a residential aged care facility, as well as independent living units, are no longer fit for purpose and need to be rebuilt. Once completed, the project will house approximately 155 residents, most of them from the local community, and employ about 80 people full-time. That's apart from the people who are employed during the construction process. We genuinely look forward to continuing our relationship with the local McLeod community and intend to be there for the decades ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a question for the speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart. Thanks for your presentation. Yeah, you talk about the community and the community you have been a part of for not that great a period, but a shorter period. What's your willingness to make some changes that will accommodate some of the concerns some of the locals might have about your development?
So I think we've made a number of changes already to the development to take into consideration what the local community was raising with regards to the size, the heights, the setbacks, etc. I'm not a planning expert myself, but I certainly believe that we have made significant concessions as we've listened to what the local community has had to say. Again, I'm happy to take anything on notice that the councillors would like me to answer, within the future period.
Well, thank you for that offer. It's very generous because there has been a number of concerns raised recently that I think we can address and still achieve what you're trying to achieve, but also make it more compatible with what people in the area are expecting. So I look forward to engaging with you and your team to work on those outcomes.
We'd be very happy to do that, Councillor. We are here to actually form an integral part within a community where we believe there's a very strong need and a strong requirement. And of course, we will work with the local community in any way that we can. And I think we've demonstrated that over the last year or two already. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to that.
Thank you. May I take a seat?
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mary Marcon from McLeod Against Overdevelopment and Action Group. Will address council in person as speaking against the recommendation. Mary, thank you.
Thank you. Before I start, I just want to clarify, in the email that we received from council and the link, it said that we had 3 minutes to speak, and that's what I've prepared.
With that mistake, we'll accommodate 3 minutes.
Thank you, and that's the other speakers are probably impacted by that.
Thank you.
As well.
You may take 3 minutes.
I speak against the proposed development. I've already shared my concerns with council, and tonight I want to reiterate the reasons why this proposal is a massive overdevelopment that will have a negative impact on the neighbourhood character, safety and overall amenity of our community. There is nothing else of this height and scale in our area that comes close to this proposed massive commercial looking building and completely disregards the existing neighbourhood character. Furthermore, the towering 3-storey buildings with 300 beds will be built on the highest part of the McLeod area. They will stretch over 2 streets and will overpower the neighbouring properties. This proposal will double the footprint of the original high care building that was demolished in 2017. This area is a residential, peaceful area, essentially a cul-de-sac surrounded by Cherry Street grasslands and the Greswell Forest. It is no thoroughfare to other areas and not connected to any major connector roads. The increased traffic from waste and delivery trucks will significantly decrease the pedestrian and car safety on our streets. Additionally, the sale and removal of public road reserves to accommodate this development will expose cars and people to a high risk of collisions with buses and trucks at this bend. One of the most concerning aspects of this proposal is the destruction of native bushland character of the McLeod area. The removal of large, protected, mature trees sets a precedent for continued destruction of our green spaces. These trees are vital for native wildlife and contribute to the cooling of our rapidly warming climate. This goes against Council's commitment to greening our suburbs and urban forest policy. 25 Hillside and 15761 to 61 Lower Heidelberg Road proposals were rejected because of their negative impact on neighbourhood character. How is this any different? Both of these were located on major connector roads, whereas this isn't. You should be making consistent decisions with all the applications and make the same decision here. Let me emphasise that we are not against well-designed and affordable aged care in our area, and the McLeod already has 3 aged care retirement developments. Mayflower, may I add, evicted its current residents against their wishes from their homes. The original aged care building made efforts to blend in with the character of the area and vegetation without dominating the landscape. However, this current proposal seems motivated solely by maximising profits and making it as large as possible, regardless of how it conflicts with our neighbourhood's character, destroys trees and disrupts our peaceful way of living. This proposed development is an overreach that disregards our community's character. We urge Council to consider all the points made by over 200 objectors that call McLeod home. We ask that you reject this proposal due to the negative impacts it will have on neighbourhood character and loss of amenity. Please prioritise the preservation of our neighbourhood's unique character and livability.
Thank you, Mary. We now move on to John Burrick, who will address Council in person and speaking against the recommendation. You two have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and members of Council. Council acknowledges that 207 objections were received and the most common issues raised were overdevelopment, buildings not in character with the area and traffic. So just to reiterate Mary's comments, we are not opposed to aged care developments. We are opposed to this proposal because it is a bad fit for the existing urban context and environment. The Victorian planning provisions require development to respond to and contribute to the existing neighbourhood character. Designing new buildings in an architectural style and form that is sympathetic with existing dwellings. I'm actually quoting from the planning provisions. They require a broader site analysis to inform building height, scale and massing. The development proposes a monolithic and massively oversized multi-storey buildings at the highest point of the sites. These buildings have no articulation, which means they're not broken up. They are a continuous entity. They are of a commercial or industrial park character. They're squared off with a flat metal deck roof, so there's no pitch roof. That's reminiscent of urban context. And they are clad in a dark green tile and aluminium panelling, very unsustainable, which will create a heat sink in summer. And the largest building is an astonishing 129 metres long, continuous, by 29 metres wide in depth. There is nothing like this, either in form, size or materiality, in the McLeod or Dunvegan estate. So you cannot find anything like this. There's no reference project. Therefore, on that metric, it doesn't meet planning provisions and it is simply a bad fit and an eyesore for the area. Now, we understand also that public land is proposed to be acquired by the developer to actually increase the size of the site to make the bad development fit, which is extraordinary. This, in my mind, is actually quite inappropriate. In terms of the physical build, only 44%, and this is an important point, only 44% of the site is being developed, yet the developer has chosen to aggregate, to collect built forms, creating high local densities. The consequence of this is reduced amenity and a precedent. It sets a precedent for further inappropriate design, and that's the key to this. So the proposal in its current form should not be allowed to proceed as it fails basic planning provisions. And these buildings, as a way forward, these buildings should be de-aggregated, broken up, and recut with planning provisions and the community concerns in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next up, we have Steve Placko will address council and is against the recommendation. You two have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. This will have a huge impact. It's directly adjacent to my place in Broadford Crescent. I will have a view of a giant monolith, black rectangular structure like a massive in-your-face wall blocking the northern view of greenery, nature, birds, you name it. The height itself will overwhelm my house, overshadow my private yard. I'll have a loss of sunlight, loss of privacy. Air conditioners and heaters on the roof will blast the noise into my house, into my bedrooms, especially at night, and in neighbouring areas as well, of course. The quality of my environment and health will be affected. I expect sleepless nights, less sunlight, no privacy, blocked greenery, and associated stress as a result as well, of course, plus parking issues in the street as well. This development is industrial size complex. It's too large, too bulky, too massive, featureless, basically intensive build. The huge monolith is a multi-storey block. It's sitting on top of a hill, imposing onto the neighbourhood, simply overwhelming all the houses nearby. It is totally out of character with the residential area. The site will no longer be in harmony with the actual community. It will actually divide the community into an us and them. Additional traffic will feed onto local residential streets, including heavy service and delivery vehicles on a daily basis. This will cause pollution, noise and safety issues. Our climate crisis will be further exacerbated with the removal of established mature trees and fauna, plus the additional concrete and building material that's been used. Basically, the development itself will be detrimental to my own environment, my own health. It is totally out of character in our beautiful neighbourhood, and I believe it has a negative, detrimental impact to our community, and the proposal as such should be rejected. So,
Thank you, Steve. Now, thank you to all of the speakers this evening. We've got one more speaker. I've just missed you. Sorry, Alicia Curry. Would you like to make your way to the lectern? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors. I'm speaking against the proposal in its current format, and I object to the issue of a planning permit. The aged care building is a massive overdevelopment for the area, and the footprint and building height is much greater than the previous Southern Cross aged care. Approval goes against many of the council's policy on neighbourhood character, urban forest and biodiversity, and the development borders a public conservation area of the Cherry Street grasslands and will be the dominant feature of those using those walking paths. although those Cherry Street parklands are in Darebin, it's still classified as public conservation. I'm concerned that although this development is a combination of aged care and a large retirement village, which are governed under respective federal and state legislation. However, Council has offered up a number of exemptions that apply to aged care to be effective against the whole development, and those exemptions do not apply to the retirement village, but they have been assigned to the whole development. And those exemptions are not noted in the officer recommendation. So an exemption for the Cultural Heritage Management Plan, because specifically aged care is not listed, but retirement village is. However, by the same token, neither a bowling alley or an airport are listed in those exemptions, so I think there should be a broader reading of that legislation. And because the application is also only under aged care, the car parking rate is vastly understated. So the car parking rate for aged care is 0.3 per bed, but the retirement village are offering up 2 and 3 bedrooms, and those spaces have actually, those villages or those units do actually have 2 spaces allocated, and yet the development is proposed with 1 space. So in each driveway, there's an additional space. It equates to 45 additional spaces, which have not been assessed in the parking and or traffic assessment. So I think the assessments are incorrect, and I think Council need to take that into consideration and decide whether you are going to apply those exemptions. Now, I must say that there is another identical building. Mayflower has actually got an identical format in Brighton. They have a construction which is partly aged care and partly retirement village. Now, not one part of that advertisement for either of those 2 things currently run under the respective pieces of legislation. None of them is advertised as aged care. The retirement villages, like they will be in McLeod, are going to be offered as luxury apartments for the retirement, so those exemptions should not apply. So also I want to talk about the number of objections on this. I asked our councillor at the local meeting that I attended to actually call this in.
Could you please sum up?
Thank you, I will. So I'd just like to mention that with so many objections, this automatically should have been called into council, but it had to be requested, and I'm a bit shocked about that. So I think there need to be a policy change in regards to those planning. Thank you.
Look, thank you. Significant interest in this item. Councillor Melican, would you like to put forward your recommendation?
If we could have it on the board, would that be possible, please? Oh. The council defers item 6.2 to the 7th of August 2023 council meeting to enable solicitation of a consultation by representatives of the department, our department planning team, between the applicant and representatives of the objecting parties. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Champion. I now then move the motion. All those in...
Can I speak to the motion? Would that be...
Okay.
I know it's only a deferral, but I think
all right.
Given the large gallery we have, I think it's... this is a very large project, and I had a meeting last night with some of the objectors, and they raised a number of points that I think need further consideration, and as we heard from the applicant tonight, they are prepared to make changes. And this is a massive project and a massive change in the area. I know there was, Southern Cross Care did have a facility there previously, so there is a history of an aged care facility on this site. But we need to make sure we get this right, because this will impact the area forever. So, and I think by postponing this for 3 weeks, with the goodwill of the applicant, the suggestions and some of the concerns raised by objectors, I think we can get to a point where we will have an agreement where everyone can achieve what they're trying to achieve, and we can all move on, and this will be accepted within the local community, which would be the ideal outcome. So I'm very sorry that people have been dragged out tonight. Not such a cold night, but and I hope you turn up to the next meeting, because I hope the next meeting will have an outcome that will be much more acceptable to the community of McLeod. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Melican. Councillor Melican. Have a question? No, we'll have the opportunity, councillors will have the opportunity to speak to the item next time. We don't need to further discuss this matter as it's a deferral item, and next council meeting will have that opportunity. So we now move the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. So just let the community know, thank you for coming in tonight. We'll have an opportunity to have this come back to council in 3 more weeks, so that further conversations can be had. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We've got a lot of interesting items, but if you'd like to also step out, you have that opportunity. I'll just give you a couple of minutes. All right, we now move on to the next council item, which is 3.1, Watsonia Town Square, awarding of construction contract number 1291 to 2023. Do we have one speaker to the item? We've got Jeremy Richards speaking for the recommendation. You have 2 minutes. Please make your way to the lectern.
Hello everybody, my name is Jeremy Richards. I'm Vice President of the Watsonia Traders Association. We represent 75 small businesses that operate in the Watsonia Shopping Centre. The Watsonia Traders Association is happy that Banyule Council negotiations led to the design and now construction of the new Watsonia Town Square. We're especially thankful to our Ward Councillor Di Pasquale and Councillor Garotti for their role in securing extra funding to make sure the Town Square hasn't had to have its scope greatly reduced from what was originally intended. Obviously, we're concerned about the likely disruptions and inconvenience of a major project constructed in the middle of town, but we hope and believe the end result will be worth it. One major concern is the disruption from the proposed entire loss of our biggest car park for several months and the chance for major intersection roadworks to cause major inconvenience for our community. What is going to make or break this project for us is the way the construction is staged. The biggest avoidable threat to our traders is disruption into October, November and December each year. We must do what we can to minimise disruption at this time of the year. So I'm here tonight to ask for the support of all councillors and council decision makers within Banyule Council and the successful bidder. Please let us know your detailed staging plans as soon as possible so we can make sure that the disruption planned can be minimised from the community's point of view. We're also concerned that Council has split up the civil and landscaping contracts, given the potential to delay the finished project, but understand and accept why you might do this. We hope Council can provide a little more certainty about what the final landscaping plans will be and when this construction can start, and more importantly, finish. We know this is a big job. It's well deserving of the title of major project. We request that Banyule Council treat it like that with the appropriate amount of consultation with key stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Now, councillors, there's an officer report before us, but I believe there is an amendment to the recommendation before us. Do I have a mover? Councillor
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Di Pasquale?
May I move? So if I may, may I move that 1 as is, 2 new point 2, so set a target for the successful tenderer to complete the substantive works by end of June 2024, while still ensuring works are staged to minimise disruption between commencement and the busy Christmas trading period. Point 3, a new point 3 being the previous point 2, new point 4 being the previous point 3, and then a new point 5 notes the significance of this project, which is identified as one of Council's major projects, and the commitment provided by the organisation in delivering this project with the direct oversight of the Director of City Development to mitigate any risks and concerns identified by the key stakeholder and Council. So move, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Garotti. Would the mover like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I will. And thank you, Councillor Garotti, for your help with regards to and formation of the amendments as well this evening. Thank you very much for your support and your support to the community as well. To the Watsonia Traders Association, Jeremy, Hesham, everyone associated with the Traders Association, thank you very much for your continued support for Councillor Garotti, who was the previous ward councillor of the Watsonia area. Post-election, the borders were changed, so therefore it then became within the Bakewell ward. So therefore I took over that area of representation, but I'm hoping that, and I hope the community can see, everyone in Watsonia, that there has been a clear collaboration between Councillor Garotti and myself constantly around the Watsonia area. There's been many conversations that we have had to have. We've had to have many conversations with the councillor group with regards to this project moving forward. I think the 2 extra points there in the that we're looking at tonight, Mayor, I think they do highlight what the major concerns are for this project. The major concerns are staying away from the high trading periods, obviously the Christmas being one of the main ones. The second being the confidence in this project being done on time with minimal disruption and to budget as well. Now, we have had many meetings. We've met with our CEO, we've met with directors, we've met with managers as well on this project, and they're confident, and I'm also confident that it should run to plan, and there will be disruption, but there should be minimal disruption and hopefully no delays. Now, Evergreen as an organisation and delivery group for projects, they have done works in the area of Watsonia before. So I'm comfortable that they know the Watsonia area. It's not like as a contractor that is coming into an area fresh and has to get the lay of the land. They've done work on the car park outside the RSL. They've also done streetscape work as well. And that was part of, I wouldn't say that was part of the formal evaluation process, but that was part of my evaluation process to be comfortable with the delivery of this project. So tonight we're just offering councillors just a couple more points to this recommendation, just to forward more information to the community and the traders, residents, everybody concerned, and I hope we have your favour for it as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Would the seconder like to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of comments, and look, as Councillor Di Pasquale pointed out, the two of us and with the CEO and fellow councillors, we are collaborating very well together on this and working really well, and very appreciative of that. Very appreciative as well with the relationship that we have with the traders and the fact that we can pick up the phones respectively to one another and have a conversation and to nut things out. This is going to be a challenging project over the next 12 months, and have flagged with Jeremy that there will be tense times, but we will get through it. I suppose I'm very excited about this project, but also very nervous. Very nervous on behalf of the traders and the community and disruption that it will cause during that construction period. I think it's important to highlight that as councillors, we haven't been sitting idly by and waiting for this to come to council. Just before the Christmas breakup, Mark and I requested a formal meeting with the Chief Executive on this issue and to have her sit down with us and take us through the plan and deliverables and milestones and budget and work through that. And that's how we got ahead of the curve for the budget process and ensured that we were able to work with our colleagues to get the funds allocated to be able to deliver what's now forward in the tender recommendation. But the other thing that we did was a couple of months ago as well, we sat down with Alison and said, what's happening? This is big risk, big issue. Who's managing it? Who's responsible for it? I have to admit at the time I wasn't happy with the answers because, we're not sure. No clear owner, no clear direction. Well, that's why it's in the recommendation now. This is a major project. A director is responsible for it. Mark and I and the council, in our eyes, we see the CEO as responsible for this. This is CEO level deliverable for us, and we will do everything in our power as councillors to ensure that this is delivered well and delivered on time. So very exciting, but a little bit nervous and a lot of work to do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other councillors that'd like to speak to the item? Councillor Champion.
Thanks, Mayor. Just very briefly, I do concur with Councillor Rick. Having just come through, in my ward, in Sherborne Ward, we've just come through the Weir Street Streetscape project, which incorporated an upgrade of the street as well as things you can't see like drainage, which actually needed to be done, as well as the pocket park. Now, we've just come out the other side and it's great. It's brilliant. People love being there. They love coming through the park. They love coming down the street. It's fantastic. That's what's coming for Watsonia. And it is nerve-wracking and there will be frustration, but it will be fantastic when it's done. It is very, very exciting.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? No, I'll take the opportunity. I'd just like to thank all those involved with this project. It is probably the biggest project for the next 12 months the council will be moving through, and significant and a great future project that will make Watsonia a much better place, in my view. So I'd also like to acknowledge the significant work that both the councillor, Mark De Pasquale, and the previous councillor, Rick Garotti, have both worked very well together and taken it through many steps in our council, united, and really representing their community very well on this project. And I think if we can apply this similar approach to all of our major streetscape works, it will help avoid some of the issues that Councillor Champion had and I had previously as well. And I think we'll take some good learnings from this process. And also like to thank Jeremy for a couple of emails. I think you and Hashem have both been sending a few about your concerns, and it certainly alerts us as councillors to making sure that we're attentive to those things as we move forward on other streetscape projects. And it's great to see this project moving through on budget, I think, as well, and good competition amongst tenderers. So with that, I now put the motion before us. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We're now moving on to item 3.2, record of councillor meetings. There are no speakers to this item. Councillors, there is an officer report before you as set out on the agenda papers. Do I have a mover? Councillor De Pasquale, seconded Councillor Garotti. Would the mover like to speak to the item?
No, nothing of significance.
Seconder? Any other councillor? No, I then put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We're now moving on to item 4.1, adoption of Banyule Community Fund Granting Framework and Assessment Panel, terms of reference. There are no speakers on this item. Councillors, there's an officer report before you as set out on the agenda papers. I'm now calling for a mover of the motion, Councillor McKern. Do I have a seconder? Oh, Councillor McKern with some amended recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll just point directly to the motion and two alternatives. Point 3, where we've added another area of benefit from potentially gaining additional resources. I believe this was nominated by Councillor Garotti, people with a disability. And the addition of point 4, note that Council will receive an annual report outlining donations, number and nature of inquiries regarding donations, successful grant submissions and other achievements of the Banyule Community Fund, including the Council resources to support the fund. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Garotti. As mover, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mayor. Council is being asked this evening to endorse the terms of reference for the BCF, the Banyule Community Fund, a philanthropic fund in partnership with Australian Communities Foundation, the aim of which is to enable businesses and organisations and individuals to make taxable and non-taxable donations to various causes and projects that align with council policy. It is a very good idea in theory, and to be honest, Mayor, I am interested to see how the terms of reference will provide incentives for potential private donors to donate to projects or causes that they are interested in supporting. And this is why I've asked for a paper to come back to Council reporting on achievements, inquiries from potential donors and cost to Council with regards to resourcing.
Thank you, Councillor. Would the seconder like to speak to the item?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think, again, I'll say excited about the Banyule Community Fund and also a little bit nervous about how it goes. But look, we're getting it off the ground. There's a launch. I believe that launch has already been scheduled. So we look forward to that. And I think what it'll do is it will provide hopefully a mechanism there for people in the community who would like to be able to give and donate and to see that happen within their local community. And at the moment, that can be challenging in terms of navigating that landscape and doing it in a safe way, in a secure way, knowing that your money or your donation is going to go to organisations that need it and meet all the appropriate requirements. So I suppose what Council's trying to do through this fund, and it's backed up, and I might get the Director to just comment briefly on the organisation that this fund would come under. The names have escaped me, that's all.
The Australian Communities Foundation, Councillor.
Thank you, Director. So it's an independent organisation that this would roll up into, and they're very well established with very good governance. So I think this is a great opportunity for our community, and I think, good amendment from Councillor McKern, just to have that reporting come back so we can have a look at how it's going and track and monitor it. But hopefully exciting times ahead, and there's already been a bit of conversation around the sorts of initiatives this fund might be able to support locally. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor Neely?
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor McKern and Garotti said a lot of what I was going to say, but I just wanted to mention that this is an example of thinking outside the box, identifying future projects and satisfying the criteria which outlines our priority areas. And just reading over those priority areas, to sum them up, it's about keeping residents connected, safe, engaged in and future-proofing our municipality. The only thing to mention was the opportunity for community members to make tax-deductible donations for the direct benefit of the local community, and this is a way that, as Councillor Garotti said, makes that possible. The Banyule community does have generous donors, and they don't have a way to easily direct donations to their local community. So this fund will improve all of that, and plus the lives of our residents. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? No, I'd just also like to air my concerns and both with every time I've got a concern, there's risk and opportunity, and this one presents those two. We've got to always take the opportunity, and there are gaps in enabling our donors locally to maybe focus their attention locally. And I think that's what this really goes towards achieving. And we've seen a couple of the priority areas up on the board this evening before us, but there are other opportunities as well. And each year, when we do that annual review, we'll have the opportunity to look at other focus areas, which might be the population groups at greatest risk, such as aged, LGBTIQA+, and also our First Nations people. So there's other areas that we may be able to include. So I look forward to this program over the next 12 months and bringing this report back for the community to see, and hopefully we get some good outcomes. With that, I will now put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We now move on to item 5.1, curbside contamination management policy. There are no speakers to this item this evening, and councillors, there is an officer report, but I believe there is an amended recommendation. Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Mayor. Just waiting for that amendment to come up on screen. I might actually start speaking to it while that comes up then. No, here it is. Thank you. Thank you to our governance team. The motion, points 1 and 2 of the motion remain consistent, which everyone can see on screen. The addition to the motion is point 3, to request officers to investigate and present back to council in a report the cost of providing stickers for residents that show permissible and non-permissible items for each curbside service to enhance the proactive education to the community on contamination. Of course, that would mean the stickers being placed on bins, if that's unclear. But I think that's fairly safely assumed otherwise, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? I'll second. All right. Would the mover like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a very appropriate policy at this time, the objective of which is to reduce contamination in all our curbside bins. All present would know that Banyule residents have a red lidded bin for general rubbish, yellow for recycled glass, plastic bottle, newspaper and cardboard, and green for garden and food waste. The aim is to provide a 6-step management process to encourage residents to be compliant in putting the right thing in the right bin. When the wrong things are put in the bins, the contamination has negative environmental and financial impacts for Banyule. Resident surveys appear to support council implementing a compliance/enforcement process, which is what, as I mentioned, this policy is about. But how does council know that a bin is contaminated? The waste trucks are fitted with cameras that allow drivers to see what's in the bin. Council also does manual bin inspections and waste audits. Aside from this motion to put up stickers, I want people to know, our councillors to know, that I recently had a complaint from a local resident who reported to me that his neighbourhood was woken up at 1:30 a.m. by a council audit being done on bins in the neighbourhood. Now, I'm not opposed to bin and waste audits. These are needed for environmental, health and safety and financial reasons. My concern is how they're being implemented. If a domestic building construction were being undertaken at 1:30 a.m, it would be a breach of the Victorian building regulations and enforcement would be onto it in a flash. Having now discussed this matter of audit process with council staff and fellow councillors, my understanding is that a report will be presented to a council briefing for debate and amendment. But given the cited example, I believe we need a better, more transparent, less intrusive and safer way of doing bin audits. And I thank the resident who brought this to my attention. I also think having stickers on bins that remind residents what can and can't go into the bins would facilitate all our residents doing the right thing, which I think, for the most part, they all do try to do. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Would any other councillor like to speak to the item? Councillor Mitsonikos.
Thanks, Mayor. I actually just wanted to also highlight a service which I think a lot of people probably don't know about, which is actually called Diaper Recycle. And because I know there's a lot of families out there who worry about nappies, and they actually do collect nappies from houses and they turn it into kitty litter. So if anyone has children and they want to take it a bit further and turn it into kitty litter, then yeah, that's they should look into it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor De Pasquale.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I must say I'm not in favour of the policy as it stands tonight. I think it is too, I think the level of enforcement could become too extreme. It steps up from warning letter, sticker, to finally being a decision that the council can enforce a private waste service on the resident, which is an exorbitant amount of money to be paying for that. Now, in my area of the municipality, I must say, I don't know what it's like in the south. It's very different, I know, but I don't want to draw straws. But in the north, we have many rental people who rent, lower income earning families, those who are struggling. And, you know, if someone plants rubbish in their bin and audits are done and they're, you know, accused correctly or incorrectly, it could impact their welfare quite significantly. I'm not prepared to make that decision, to have the council being able to impact lives like that. Rates are paid by, generally for a renter, rates are paid by the landlord, so the resident really doesn't see any of that. So the landlord would just take, you know, action to you know, get the person out of the home if they do you know, have this enforcement on them. It'll be an extra cost to the landlord. Now, my opinion is that this council has been on the wrong track with regards to waste for some time now. I think this council implemented the system of waste as it is currently too quickly, a year too early. There should have been an education process in the year leading up to this was implementation, just like Manningham did. Manningham was going with it from this July, where they had a big education process. And I do draw the figures of the Waste Management Community Satisfaction Survey results. In 2014, the survey results showed a 79. In 2022, that went down to 72. And in 2023, that's gone down to 68. Now, I was elected here onto this council in 2012, 2 years before that first survey, and it was at a 79. Now I'm looking at it being a 68. So that's not acceptable as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to oppose this process. I want to go back to the drawing board. I want officers to tell me how they're going to work this and make sure that people put the right things in the right bins, but not having this huge enforcement like this, these penalties that can stand over people's heads. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillors like to speak to the item? Councillor Neely.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start with saying that this council is definitely on the right track in regards to waste. Council has undergone a huge change in implementing the FOGO system, which has significantly changed the way we manage our waste, and it couldn't be more timely. The council's communication went out to the community in a variety of mediums, and our council's landfill, as a result, has been significantly reduced. This management policy that we're discussing now highlights there is still work to do on education and communication between council and the community. Behavioural change takes time, and this time can be compounded, and we understand this, by external factors that affect people personally in their day-to-day lives. We understand that the Banyule community, through our consultations, our committees, our surveys, other communication, phone, email, we know that our community cares about the environment, and they understand that this system improves sustainable outcomes. I have to say the community has been really excellent in adapting quite quickly. Some people have been doing this for a lot longer than we know. The report says that more than 1,000 responses were received from residents on this, with 92% saying that this is important. This is important to Banyule residents. So this policy is about enhancing proactive education, which is what I'm all about. It's about reducing contamination as well as any financial penalty. We have to be responsible with our budget. There is a 6-step process involved, so 6. That gives people time, it gives people opportunity to get on board. So lots of communication and one-on-one service that, if you read the report, it's highlighted there. The waste industry is being shaken up all over the world. Our country's linear model, and I mention our country because other countries, to mention Germany, Sweden.
Councillor, would you like to sum up?
Oh, have I gone over?
Yes.
Oh, I don't usually, just a little bit more time there. They have moved away from that model a long time ago. This model is not sustainable. So the future is circular, and good governments are doing their part, private companies are doing their part, small businesses are doing their part, and we certainly have to do our part. So we need to reprocess, not to dump. And I'll try and sum up quickly. This policy addresses our sustainability. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor. Yeah. Councillor Melican.
Yeah, thank you. As pointed out by Councillor De Pasquale, we did drop 4 points from 72 to 68, which brings us down to the metro average. And if you think we're going to change direction because 4 out of 100 people think that their service is deteriorated. Well, as Councillor Neely said, the large majority, 92% of the people that responded to the Towards Zero Waste supported removing contamination from our bins, 92%. And contamination cost this council $1.5 million over 3 years. And it's caused by less than 3% of the bins we collect. So we need an education program. I don't believe people are doing this deliberately. It's a bad education. And through a 6-step process, we will give the people who have not been advised properly or have moved the area since we did a very high profile public campaign to educate people on what goes into what bin. And I think the vast majority of people have embraced it. Now, maybe some of these 3% have moved into Banyule since then, and we need to do a bit more education. That's what this thing does. But then you look at the savings for council, $380,000 less in landfill levies because of diversion, 4,500 tonnes diverted from landfill per year. That's what we're talking about. This is about leadership. This is about making steps to make us more sustainable. This is about doing something about climate change. This council has declared a climate emergency. We have a greenhouse gas reduction process, and some people are talking about going backwards and just chucking everything back in landfill. This is a careful decision. This council planned carefully, educated the people, and put out huge amounts of publicity about. Less than 3% of people aren't aware of that, and this is about educating them. I will support this education program.
Councillor, would you like to sum up?
I didn't hear any beeps. I'm waiting for a beep.
Carry on. Sum up. Come on.
So I'll support this process, and there's no way we're going backwards. And it is a state government requirement that we do this anyway. I think this has been a fantastic process, embraced by 97% of people in Banyule, and I think we should proceed, and this will pick up the rest.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor Grotti.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, I think Councillor De Pasquale pointed out a very pertinent point, that about 10 years ago we were pushing 80% satisfaction on what is rated as one of our most critical services. If it's not the highest, then I think it's in the top 3. And to see that decline now to the 60s and potentially even further, that's a concern. And I'm not going to be flippant about it. I really appreciate where Mark is coming from on this. I don't really think sort of not going ahead with this policy is the right way to approach it, though it may be. I'll be monitoring this area closely, and I'll be asking residents in my area to give me feedback. And I'm happy to look at changing tack, because if we're heading into the 60s in what is our most critical service, that is a concern. And I'm not going to flippantly just say, oh, well, we're better than the state average. Well, we're better than the state average in a lot of areas. So I don't look at our benchmark being the state average. I look at our benchmark being where we used to be, being high, being 75, 80% plus satisfaction. That's my benchmark, not the benchmark of other councils out there that are significantly underperformed annual. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor Champion.
Just very briefly, the reality is there are people who do want to contribute. They want to contribute to this FOGO process. They just need assistance. They want to understand how they can contribute. I think this will go towards it if we get to the point of producing stickers for our communities. The reality is, just mentioned 3%. The reality is there are going to be residents who just won't. They won't. No matter what we do, they won't. And that's fine. But the majority of our communities really want to contribute. And like we've said, there are those like our family who've been doing it their whole lives. It's quite normal. This is what we do. Many have come on board. Many are very excited that we have FOGO. So really, this is just another way to go ahead and give some knowledge, assist with knowledge and help encourage residents who want to understand more about how to follow this process. So I'll be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors?
Just a question for the mover. Could we add a point 4 to have a report come back in 12 months to see how this has performed? To consider the reservations of some councillors? Is that possible?
I don't have a problem with that, Mayor.
Seconder?
And yes, we've got through a lot of speaking. Yeah, I'd be supportive of that. We'll get those words put up in a minute.
While that's being done, Mayor, I might as well just have a quick word. So definitely hearing the reservations from some councillors, but it's important to notice that this policy is the first that we're doing, but there has been contamination. Banyule has been doing something about it, but it hasn't been documented. So, what gets measured gets better. I believe that. So this is the first time that we're going to be going to measuring it. And yes, is it the ideal scenario? We don't know. But we'll get to the chance to see it now. Thank you for agreeing to the new point, and see how it goes in 12 months. So I'm supportive of this.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that leaves me, the only one that hasn't spoken. Look, I'm very supportive of this. Councillors' officers have done a lot of hard work. A lot of considered work has gone into this opportunity. Now, last year we adopted FOGO, which was the biggest impact on reducing waste and saved us $370,000 in reducing the amount of landfill. The next biggest opportunity, both in environmental outcome and cost, is this. It's to stop contamination. Last year it cost us more than $500,000 in costs because we had too much contamination. We don't want that to be a burden on our community. So I'm all fully behind this process. I think we are very generous with people that do the wrong things 6 times before they have a service withdrawn. So I think anyone that doesn't listen after 6 times should be paying a lot more, and they should not burden the rest of our community with big fines if we have contamination. I have lots of calls, mainly on waste. One is missed bins. The second one is frustration with people that put the wrong things in the bin, and it makes people go mad. In a number of emails I've been receiving multiple times, we haven't had an adequate process to make sure that people do the right thing. And I think this is a really wonderful step forward to do the next big thing in waste, deliver us a good outcome and keep us at the head of the pack. And I'm very happy to hear that 68% of our community are behind us doing as much as we can to reduce waste and deliver a good financial outcome to our community as well in dealing with this matter. So having said that, heard everyone else, I will now put them, write a reply. Councillor McKern.
Thanks, Mayor. As Mahatma Gandhi once famously said, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. And I appreciate the passion that has been expressed in this chamber this evening. It's good to see that every councillor has an opinion on waste. As has been mentioned, it's one of our core services, and I'm sure every resident also has a strong opinion when it comes to waste. But change, like birth, can be difficult. And I do appreciate the concerns around education, because that's what serious change needs, good education. And I just want to take this opportunity, Mayor, to ask through you a question of the Director of Assets and City Services. Regarding the education program, we did undertake, Director, to implement FOGO. I believe it was quite thorough and holistic, but your thoughts on this, given some of the issues or concerns raised this evening regarding that education process for the introduction of food organics and green organics recycling, could you enlighten us as to what we did do over what period of time to help our residents come to terms with this quite massive change?
Yeah, could you please clarify what work we did do prior to that implementation?
Through you, Mayor, yes, there was quite an extensive education campaign in the lead up to FOGO. We held a lot of workshops and prepared a lot of material and made sure that we made that ready available for our community. We had a lot of pop-ups. We're actually doing another piece of work in partnership with La Trobe University, where we're looking at, through the behavioural lab, we're looking at testing some of our material to make sure that we are reaching those hard-to-reach community members, and we'll continue to do that as we refine and develop our communication collateral to make sure that we're able to provide as much information we can to ensure that people know what needs to go on the right bins.
Over what period of time
We started the communication probably over a 12-month period, but the communication is ongoing, because we have one-on-one support for our community members, and we'll reach out to them and provide that one-on-one support to make sure that we can get the best outcome for the service. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's my recollection it's 3 years. I started the survey with the community on our first Towards Zero Waste strategy. But I think that is the answer to your questions. And with that, we'll now move on to putting the motion. All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried.
Division, Mayor.
We have a division. I will now ask all councillors, all those in favour, to please stand. I'll read out their names. Councillor Champion, Councillor De Morelos, Councillor Melican, Councillor McKern, Councillor Castaldo, Councillor Mitsonikos, Councillor Garotti, Councillor Neely. And all those against? Councillor De Pasquale. I declare the motion carried. We now move on to item 6.1, the Panorama Eaglemont, new dwelling in the significant landscape overlay, P1 2023. There is 2 speakers on this item this evening. We have John Glossop from Glossop Town Planning, will address council in person and is speaking for the officer recommendation. John, please approach the lectern. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, staff and gallery, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is John Glossop. I'm a Director of Glossop Town Planning. My firm was the applicant company that lodged the proposal on behalf of the landowner. Firstly, important to note that I think this process has gone through a period of back and forth with your officers. We did do a consultation meeting which was attended by a number of residents, and Mayor, you were at that meeting, and good evening again. Subsequent to that meeting, we've amended plans. Those plans were prepared on a without prejudice basis and have been the basis of the officer's decision. Those plans are to be implemented via a series of conditions on the planning permit. It's important to note that this application, unlike a lot of the other matters you've had tonight, is a very straightforward one in terms of the permit triggers of the planning scheme. The only permit trigger is the significant landscape overlay, which triggers a planning permit for buildings and works where the buildings exceed 6 metres in height. In part, this building has a height of just under 9 metres. What that means, of course, is that if my client was to design the building so that it was 6 metres or less, there'd be no planning permit required at all for this application. Sometimes I think we can see that the need for a triggering of a planning permit is a negative. Somehow we're breaching the planning scheme. However, the benefit of the permit in this case is that it allows your officers to impose conditions upon my client in relation to landscape plans, arboricultural management plans, and a series of other conditions that will be binding on my client. We think overall, on balance, this application is worthy of your support, and certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have of me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions? No. Please take a seat. We next have a written statement that will now be read out on behalf of Nerily and Stuart Ross, who are against the recommendation by Kath Brackett, Director of Community Wellbeing.
Thank you, Mayor. Point 1, SLO1, height is triggered, which states a permit is not required to construct a building or construct or carry out works with a height not exceeding 6 metres above ground level. What is the rationale and criteria for this decision to be approved? 7, the Panorama was built in the late 1930s, 85 years ago, and 41 Carlsberg Road was built in 1915, 108 years ago. So it is appropriate to compare those two properties to the proposed height plans of 9, the Panorama, when rules have changed significantly since those times. Where does it indicate that it is discretionary to build beyond 6 metres? Point 2, setbacks. The garage setback, a minimum of 7.5 metres from the front boundary, goes against the Schedule 12 to Clause 43.02 Design Development Overlay, 27th to the 5th, 19. Point 3, the 28th of 11th, 2013, C91, setbacks. Buildings should be set back in line with the predominant front setback of dwellings along the Panorama. In amended plans, the 7.5 metres has been taken from the car park brick post of 41 Carlsberg Road property, which is not part of the Panorama, but rather the carport of 41 Carlsberg Road, not its building wall. Buildings, including basements, should be set back by a sufficient distance from the front and rear boundaries and at least one side boundary to enable the planting and growth of medium to large trees. Setbacks should provide sufficient area for future growth for the mature canopy of trees and understory planting. Mature planting has not been suggested nor provided for between 9, the Panorama, and 41 to 43 Carlsberg Road properties. Garages and carports should be located behind the front setback of dwellings, based on the entry lounge setback amendment being suggested at 8.5 metres. The garage continues to be in front of the building at 7.5 metres. Side setbacks should protect the daylight and amenity of adjoining dwellings. The wall proposed next to the northern boundary fence will reduce light compared with the current fence.
Thank you. Now, councillors, there's an officer report as set out as the papers, but there is a minor amendment. We have a mover, Councillor Neely. Could you speak to that amendment, please?
Well, happy to move on Griffin Ward Councillor's behalf with the addition of a point J Modification to the vehicle crossing to reduce the width of the vehicle crossing so that it is the minimum width necessary in accordance with Council's vehicle crossing policy. And, that was I, sorry. And now J, modification to the driveway so that it is the minimum width necessary to manoeuvre in and out of the garage. So moved.
Bit more.
3A, with the addition of, including an additional planted area where the driveway width is reduced in condition 1. And 1 small Indigenous canopy tree, mature height of at least 5 m to the north of the driveway. Oh, is there?
I think that's it,
So moved.
and I'll happily second that. Would the mover like to speak?
Pass it on to the ward councillor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Look, first, before I speak, I'd like to put the question to the City Development Director this evening. This permit application has quite specific grounds on which we can assess it this evening. Could you please speak to those grounds?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. As John pointed out, the reason for the planning permit is the significant landscape overlay. The trigger there in this instance relates to the height of the building and where it is over 6 metres. So that is effectively the remit of council in considering this application. Vegetation is also considered as it relates to opportunities to screen the heights that are proposed.
Thank you. I'll now continue. Look, this is a difficult one as a councillor. You sometimes want to say, I'll reject it, but you need grounds to do that. Neighbourhood character is very important to this part of the community, and I'm very mindful of that. But I need to also act in the best interest of the broader community and make sure that we don't go frivolously off to VCAT under grounds we can't defend. So in my process and council's process, we first undertook an objections meeting in which we had around 12 objectors, I believe, come to have their views heard. And we had to go through the complexities of the planning scheme, and that's very difficult. Even for me, being on the council for 7 years now, there's quite detailed areas that are hard to understand unless you're right in the thick of it. And some of these areas, the SLO has changed as well in recent times, the mechanism in which we can speak to and make sure it is bound by. In this situation, the applicant has put forward without prejudice amended plans that go some way to dealing with some of the perimeter planting, setbacks at the front as well. And that has worked quite well, I think, with the officer alternative recommendation, which speaks to including a number of trees, canopy trees, which will assist in setting this building, which is quite iconic and contemporary, into the lateral landscape over time, because there's a significant number of canopy trees that will be planted both in the front and at the rear of this property that will help bring it back into the highly vegetated forest type environment of that area. And the minor amendment tonight is just a narrowing of the driveway, because we want to make sure that the hard surface out the front of this building isn't dominating and over time is recessed by as maximum amount of garden space as possible. And so with those amendments, I believe that I could be comfortable in supporting this within the area that I could play a role. And there are other opportunities down this track for the setback to be contested by the community at the building permit stage. Now, they're pushing those grounds in the setback. It's not fully set back as much as the grounds require, I believe, but that will be interpreted by the officers at that stage and give the opportunity for the neighbours, I believe, to also challenge that as well. I might just ask the quick question of the officer, what the process for setbacks at the next stage of this process?
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Mayor. In this case, the lot's over 500 square metres, and we don't consider siting including setbacks as part of the planning process. So if a variation is needed to the building regulations, which are the same as what we would consider if planning was considering it, a report and consent must be sought to seek a dispensation that's processed by Council's municipal building surveyor.
Thank you. And I think I've finished up. I'm supportive of the recommendation tonight within the limitations I have. Do any other councillors wish to speak to the item? Councillor De Pasquale.
Mayor, just if I may, just there's some changes that have been made there. I just want to just understand whether, and probably a question to the applicant's representative, whether they are aware of these changes there, whether they are too much, and what would be the appetite for then going to arbitration for this permit.
Would you like to answer that question, John?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the question. I don't think they pose any issues. It's a bit unclear to me how much the driveway needs to be reduced in width by. It's already been narrowed pretty significantly, actually, at the crossover point. But I don't think there'd be any issue in us meeting Council's crossover policy, so I think we'd be happy with that. The other condition was planting of a tree, I think, of up to 5 metres to the north of the driveway. Again, my client is happy to landscape the property, has submitted a landscape plan. One more tree would be acceptable to him, I'm sure, and his family. I would assume that Council's landscape department would be happy with a tree of those proportions in that space, and if they are, we're happy to plant it.
Thank you. No further questions, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. You may take a seat. Any other councillors? No? I will then put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We are now moving on to item 7.1. Item 8.1, consideration of submissions and objections received East Ivanhoe Village Special Charge Renewal. There are no speakers to this item this evening. And councillors, there is an officer report before you and set out on the papers. I'm calling for a motion. Councillor Garotti. I'll second this one. Would you like to speak to the item? I'll just speak very quickly. There were 3 in support, 1 against. This special rate scheme raises about $50,000 to go towards delivering good outcomes for this trader association and activity centre in East Ivanhoe. Fully supportive of the report to come back to council and considering the further adoption of this program into the future. I will now ask any other councillors. No one else? All right. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Declare the motion carried. We now move on to item 8.2. There are 2 speakers to this item. Consider the submissions received by Ivanhoe Shopping Centre Trader Special Rate and Charge Renewal. The first speaker to this item is Stavros Tsikou from Ivanhoe Trader Association, speaking for the office recommendation. Please take the lectern. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors and council officers. My name is Stavros and I form part of the Marketing and Centre Coordinator team for the Ivanhoe Traders Association. I stand proudly here tonight to express what a dynamic and active association Ivanhoe Traders are and continue to be. In keeping with our strategic business plan, marketing budgets and funding agreements, here are some of the key Ivanhoe Traders promotion activities achieved by the Ivanhoe Shopping Special Rate over the past 5 years. creating and executing an extensive range of strategic marketing promotions and campaigns, such as major events, trader shopping events, industry-based promotions, cutting-edge competitions, professional development seminars, and new Christmas decorations, just to name a few. The Ivanhoe Traders Association major achievement, however, has been the introduction and continuing immense success of the Shopping Ivanhoe gift card program. In the last 5 years, $750,000 of Ivanhoe gift cards have been activated, sold, and redeemed across thousands and thousands of transactions at more than 100 different Ivanhoe businesses. All this arguably makes the ITA one of the best performing traders associations from quantifiable, measurable, and a return on investment perspective. It's also important to note that through the last 5 years, we've had a worldwide pandemic, which has caused huge disruptions to businesses and everyday lives like never experienced before. The ITA puts a concerted effort into consistently communicating to traders about all new changes, rules, as well as opportunities for businesses to get access to as much support as possible, and much of that support was through council as well. The ITA was also successful in obtaining significant grant funding for marketing campaigns to help stimulate the Ivanhoe economy. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Banyule Council as being the major partner contributing towards the special rate program. This enables the ITA to compete with the very best of them by providing much needed resources to help get our message out that Ivanhoe is a great shopping precinct for people to continue to live and shop in Ivanhoe. None of this would be possible without the special rate program. I'll now hand you over to our President, Zach, from Coffee Plus, which is one of Ivanhoe's favourite coffee hangouts. Thank you.
Thank you, Stavros. I think you fit more than 2 minutes than I've seen before. Next, we'll move on to Zach Silvestro from Ivanhoe Trader Association to speak in person for the officer recommendation. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors and Council Officers. My name is Zach Silvestro and I'm the President of Ivanhoe Traders Association. The Ivanhoe Shopping Centre is growing. Major developments have been completed in and around the shopping centre over the past 5 years, bringing with them a different demographic. More developments are currently in the process of being built and more on the horizon. Ivanhoe's population today is estimated to be around 14,500 and it is forecast to grow to over 20,000 by 2041. In the last 5 years, Ivanhoe has welcomed many exciting new businesses into the Ivanhoe Shopping Centre, and there are many new businesses announcing to move here in the future. Which will obviously, keep vacancy rates comparatively low. The Ivanhoe Traders Association came up to the consensus to raise the contribution to $140,000 per annum for the next 5 years. Please note, this was not an easy or straightforward decision, and many different items were considered, such as inflation and cost rising. Last increases were over 10 years ago. More and more new properties entering the scheme, contributing towards the rate, allows for more resources towards marketing and events in the area. We don't obviously want to fall behind with the without an increase on the competition. Demonstrates to council that the traders believe in the strength of the scheme, value for money. Traders in general already get a fantastic return on investment. Comparing what other centres in Banyule are contributing towards their respective rates. Results from the Ivanhoe Special Rate Survey, feedback from all our workshops. In conclusion, over the past months, the Traders Committee have been active in working with the Banyule Economic Development Team regarding the rate renewal process, which included an ITA workshop and survey providing opportunities for direct input into the strategic business plan for the next 5 years. The business plan will act as an important document to assist the Traders Association to keep on growing and achieving targets, to continually promote and enhance the centre, especially in these current challenging retail economic times. The Ivanhoe Traders Association considers Ivanhoe as one of Melbourne's premium strip shopping centres and values the special rate as an important factor in maintaining its excellence. Therefore, the Ivanhoe Traders Association would like to continue the productive working relationship with Banyule Council in the years to come. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. I believe there's a question for you, Zach, if you'd just like to wait there for a second. Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have a question for Mr. Stavros Zikou, unless, of course, Zach would like to answer it. Perhaps it's in the realm for both of you. As a resident in Chelsworth Ward, I'm regularly shopping on the Ivanhoe shopping strip, and one of the comments that has come back to me by a number of traders is regarding the gift card and incompatibility of the gift card with their portable EFTPOS machines. Can you comment on that and what might be done, perhaps what ITA can do to help increase that level of compatibility so that more traders can actually process those gift cards?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, there's not quite a few, there's certain EFTPOS terminals that aren't able to, receive payment from the card, and that is because there's an incompatibility. I think Square's probably the main one.
Yeah, so the way the Ivanhoe gift card program works is it works by the old EFTPOS system, the swipe mechanism. So if the terminal does not have a swipe mechanism like the new Square payments where they tap, and unfortunately it's not compatible. And the reason being is with the swipe, it's very sort of easy to manage the transactions. Because the gift cards are they're not permanent, so once you use them and then you throw them out. Whereas with the tap system, if you were to put a chip on them, they become very, very expensive. Yes, so the technology hasn't caught up in that regard. To those traders that don't have that facility or are cash only, for example, there's not too many cash only anymore, we do recommend that they can go to any bank or whatever and get a terminal if they think it's worth their while to accept those gift cards. So they do have that opportunity, it just becomes a commercial decision for them. Typically I think the cheapest one we've found is about $20 per month. It's about $240 per year.
Well, this is great conversation. I think let's hold this off this is a good one to discuss outside of this meeting. I think let's talk about that. But thank you both for coming in this evening.
Thank you, Councillors.
We got a bit off track then, but back online now. So we've got it. Do we have a mover? Councillor McKern. Do we have a seconder? Councillor De Morelos. Would the mover like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mayor, and I think our speakers can be justifiably proud standing here and spouting some really good positive relations between council and the traders, and also the traders amongst themselves. Very excited to see that we have a new president in Zach Silvestro, and I think that's also brought some change and fresh air. It's always good to have a change of scenery. So thank you, both of you, for coming in tonight. The Ivanhoe Special Rate and Charge Scheme, as mentioned, is levied by council on local businesses in Ivanhoe Shopping Centre for the purpose of providing local businesses with services and activities that help local business to thrive, including marketing, promotion and advertising. Thriving local business, of course, contributes to thriving local communities. Council received 11 submissions of support from local traders for the levy, and interestingly, not one objection. So I think that speaks volumes. Traders have informed us, as mentioned by our speakers, that they see direct benefits from the special rate value, and we look forward to that continuing, particularly in these times where we have economic uncertainty, the aftermath of COVID, and increasing competition that strip shopping centres like Ivanhoe face against the large hard-top mall-type conglomerate shopping centres. I'm certainly happy, Mayor, to support the officer's recommendation tonight, and once again thank the ITA President and Marketing Manager for their comments. Local is good, and I welcome trader-driven initiatives that support our local economy, create jobs and help foster a deeper sense of unity in our community. And Ivanhoe is wonderful for a deep sense of community. I also welcome the ITA partnership with Council to deliver on activities, events and physical improvements to Ivanhoe Shopping Centre that will encourage greater strip vibrancy and community engagement. To that end, we have a lovely new pocket park, a little piazzetta, opening in Waterdale Road tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'm hoping that ITA's new 5-year plan in collaboration with Council will return to Ivanhoe a major community event, which I believe is appropriate with Ivanhoe being one of the 3 major activity centres in Banyule, As we've had in the past, the Ivanhoe Fiesta has definitely not been forgotten by residents who regularly inquire about it. So I look forward to good things in this space, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Second.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, this is nice to see the submissions and the consideration of submissions, which is what we're talking about at this item. And looking forward to the final decision on August 7th for our next meeting to resolve on this. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Just like to thank you both. 11-0, very well done. Great when you get unanimous support like that. Well done. With that, I will now put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We're now moving on to item 8.3, Jobs Victoria Advocate Program Closeout. There are no speakers to this item this evening. And councillors, there is an officer report before you as set out on the agenda papers. I'm calling for a motion. We have a mover. Councillor Garotti, seconded by Councillor Neely. As mover, would you like to speak to the item? Seconder? No, I think, any other councillors? No, I will just take the opportunity to ask the appropriate Director, Community Wellbeing, I think, to speak to this item on what was achieved over the 3-year period this program was rolled out in our community.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, it was a very exciting program, and to be honest, we were disappointed that we weren't able to receive ongoing funding, and that was a decision for the most recent state budget. In the 3 years of the program, there was about 4,800 connections with people who otherwise would be isolated from the job-seeking scheme. So we really focused on people who had some sort of disadvantage or weren't in the loop in terms of accessing Commonwealth-funded job placement services. So it was a great chance to help people who otherwise would miss out on career opportunities and job pathways. We partnered with neighbourhood houses, TAFEs and local providers, and our team actually went out and sat in those community centres and those TAFEs to make those connections with people. So a really great in-community outreach service. The learnings that we got through the program and the networks, we're definitely taking on board as part of our current operational programming and approach. And we worked really hard with First Nations, local communities, and particularly some of our coal communities around Job First and Job Expo. So it was a fantastic outcome, and the team did a great job exceeding all the KPIs that were required in the program.
Great, thank you. And with that, I'd just like to thank the state government for their support. It's worth about $1 million in support to our community over this important period of time. And I just thought it was important that we hear a little bit about what that did contribute. Meeting those KPIs is very good news. Thank you. With that, I will now put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We now move on to item 9.1, notice of motion. There are no speakers. Firstly, we move on to 9.1, options paper for establishment of a planning delegated committee of council. There are no speakers to this item this evening. Councillors, I believe there is an amended recommendation. Councillor McKern.
That is correct, Mayor. Yes, happy to speak to that. And the amended motion is that council withdraw the notice of motion as at item 9.1, options paper for the establishment of a planning delegated committee of council. And I'm happy to explain that, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Garotti. As mover, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mayor. This notice of motion has come off the back of a council resolution on the 26th of June this year requesting a report following the release of IBAC Operation Sandon final report on advocacy and action that council might take in response to the IBAC outcomes. Particular concerns are the possible removal of councillor planning application call-in powers. I'm seeking to withdraw this motion this evening, Mayor, because upon reflection and further discussion, I believe that the motion, in the way it's been written, doesn't clearly express my intention regarding planning application flagging and call-in powers for councillors. Call-in powers, Mayor, refer to assuming responsibility for decision-making. councillors have this power under the Planning and Environment Act of 1987. This is an important power bestowed upon councillors, and to remove it could mean silencing the voice of our people. What I do seek is to resubmit this notice of motion at a later date this year that aims to strengthen councillor input into planning decisions by identifying a more structured process for flagging or calling in applications of community and or councillor interest. I believe that currently the triggers for flagging and calling in applications by councillors from delegated officers are relatively loose and ill-defined. This means that planning applications that ideally should be called into council for decision making may be missed because councillors are unaware of them. I had this scenario, Mayor, in Ivanhoe when an application for about 16 apartments on a single dwelling lot drew about 35 objections. I was informed of this application by a resident well after the advertising period had closed. This is a case where I should have been informed, given I had previously provided my triggers for flagging applications, 8 objections being one of those triggers. It's my understanding that many Melbourne Metro councils have clearly defined processes and or delegated committees for decision-making by councillors based on defined and clear criteria. Criteria typically include a threshold number of resident objections and a monetary value for a proposed development. It would be helpful for this council to have and make planning flags and call-ins more defined and more accessible and easier to understand for all concerned. I look forward, Mayor, to the possibility of representing this NOM with clearer intent later this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. For the second, I'd like to speak to the item.
Yeah, look, well done to Councillor McKern for her advocacy in this area. She put up the NOM, consulted with many of us over the weekend, and I think it's just good work as a councillor, hearing our feedback and what we're advising, what we're suggesting, pulling back for the time being, having a briefing come to council, and then going it again a second time. So keep it up and good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? No, I'll just say that I'm fully supportive of the intention that Councillor McKern brought this forward on. There's some tight limitations on how notice of motion must be played out, and on this situation, Councillor wanted to make some amendments, but it was very difficult to make under the rules of a notice of motion. And so I think this is a very good step to work with other councillors to make sure that we have the best possible processes to enable the most scrutiny possible to deliver for our community on a very important subject matter. So thank you, Councillor, and fully supportive of the amended motion. Any other councillor? No? With that, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare the motion carried or withdrawn. We now move on to item 9.2, improving walking and cycling access to all schools in Banyule. There are no speakers to this item this evening, councillors. There is an officer report before you as set out on the agenda papers. I'm calling for a mover of that motion. Councillor Melican, and seconded by Councillor Neely. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just briefly, as people will be aware, we are experiencing large population growth, and that's expected to continue. And currently we do have an obesity crisis. If you go to any school in Banyule at pick-up and drop-off time, it's called pick-up and drop-off time because that's what the vast majority of people do. And the congestion and the parking around schools is just a nightmare. And this report's asking for what will it take to do an audit of all schools to find out how to make it safe to walk and cycle to every school. Interestingly, the Department of Transport and Planning have put out some grant applications or grant opportunities which could assist us with this. It's also interesting the Department of Transport and Planning have an objective of achieving 25% of all trips in Melbourne to be either by walking or cycling by 2023. And if you look in Banyule, we're about half the metro average of cycling rates now. So we have a long way to go. We're about 1.4%. and we need to get to 25% in the next 7 years. So you'd wonder what they were doing to support their own initiatives. But and given the number of schools that have closed in Banyule, our schools are now becoming much bigger. They're more like regional schools, and the number of students in every school is expanding rapidly. So it's certainly something we need to do, and something I'm happy to support, and I'm happy to get this report to find out what it will take and what would be the best opportunities and the priorities if we were to act. So I'm hoping to get support from my fellow councillors tonight.
Thank you. Would the second like to speak to the item?
Oh, just quickly, yeah, I'm very supportive of improving cycling access to schools in Banyule, and I'd also like to add across Banyule from one to the other would be ideal. Parents are continually looking for ways to, give their children more independence, and this would be a very community focused way of doing so. So very good notice of motion. I support it. Thank you.
Any other councillors? Councillor De Pasquale.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this is a very important item. I would like to pose a question, possibly to the mover. My question is, where do we as councillors, as elected representatives of the community, where do we receive information about where, because you do allude to accidents that have happened in the Banyule area, where do we receive that information so that we can arm ourselves with information which will allow us to make better decisions or quicker decisions? I think being a councillor now for over 10 years, I haven't really seen a report or any updates which advise me of residents, particularly young residents who are, having troubles getting to school, being hit by cars, doing, accidents, deaths, etc. Is there a way, or is there a report that I and councillors could have that could extend this urgency into a matter that we're looking at it constantly?
Did you want me to answer that question, or did you want one of the directors?
I suppose I pose that to the Mayor to delegate that question how he sees fit.
Yeah, it's probably best, let's try with the best placed officer to speak to that.
Through you, Mayor, I'd take that on notice.
All right. I'll go back to Councillor Melican.
I'll just pass a few comments. Yeah, it always disappoints me that often we ask, and the only place you can go to is the police, and they'll tell you that they only report accidents where people involves a car and someone is injured and is required to go to hospital. Otherwise, accidents aren't recorded. And that's incredibly disappointing when you think that there has been some accidents, and there was an incident outside Rosanna Primary recently of a person on a bike, and because the child wasn't badly injured and didn't go to hospital, it's not recorded as an accident. So, and yet I imagine that child will never be allowed to ride his bike to school again. There was an incident on Rosanna Road where a cyclist was hurt very badly at the fault of the driver, and the driver received a $1,500 fine, which you think this changed this person's life forever. And the fine's $1,500. Hardly a disincentive to treat people with respect. So yes, the reporting of accidents is very understated, but it's more the fear factor. It's the fact that we let cars dominate our cities.
Thank you, Tom. I think that's a question answered.
I believe Councillor was talking into my time. Thank you, Mayor. So, in just summing up, so this information I think is important to guide us. Hopefully, it can be picked up in the recommendation or in the report, because the way that families live more so these days is mum and dad. A lot of families are working. They're leaving their children to get to school by their own means. And the laws in our state are that any child over the age of 12 has to abide by the road rules of cycling. So they need to be effectively riding on the roads, not on the footpaths. And that is that's a year 7, grade 6 to year 7 student who has to ride on the roads. Now, I won't let my daughters ride on the roads. One's in year 8, one's in year 7. No way. So there needs to be a massive shift for our community, understanding that 12-year-olds can be on the roads. So we need to highlight this in our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor Mitsonikos.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this because I think it's very important for kids to have safe access to and from school. my kids are lucky they live across the road from a school, so they don't have to walk very far, but they do still have to cross a road. And it's taught them some great independence and also life skills on learning about navigating cars and making sure they're safe. And all kids need to be able to do that. It also, by them having safe walking or riding, less cars on the road, which is good, and parking down residential streets. And obviously we get a lot of complaints about residents not being able to get out of their driveways because of them being blocked. Thanks, Tom, Councillor Milligan, for bringing this up. I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now the councillors. No, I'll just finalise. I'm fully supportive of this also. I know at least 3 incidents that have occurred around Rosanna Primary within the last couple of years. Near misses, very close to serious injuries. So I think this is a very important step to moving us into a sustainable transport. I know I'm a parent now with kids at school, and it's absolutely nightmarish around there. And if there's anything to make it easier for people to take active transport, walking or riding to school, and being able to make that experience better, I think council should take those steps, because that will make the environment less congested and more safe for even the drivers and everyone else as well. So I'm fully supportive, and I do acknowledge it is scary to have children on bikes in that environment, and I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done around these areas to make sure that we create a safe place for people to do the best possible transport options. And go school local, I also say. So I now then put this motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We are now moving on to item 10, general business. We have a few general business items this evening. Firstly, with the Deputy Mayor, Alida McKern, drop-in sessions at IGS proposed development plan. Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, during the week, Councillor Tom Milliken and myself attended a public information drop-in session at Ivanhoe Grammar School. The session was to make available the plans, council staff and representatives of the school to discuss the planning application submitted by Ivanhoe Grammar to amend the school's existing development plan. So the school seeks to do a number of changes, including increase the overall height of the senior years centre. And Mayor, it was a very well attended event. In order of about 60 people registered their attendance, and I think this is a reflection of the local community, which takes a very keen interest in proposed developments in the area. So I just wanted to make it known that we do have a web page on this very item, and if people Google Ivanhoe Grammar School Development Plan, everything should be there. This is, we are currently in the advertising period, and I believe the advertising period has been extended given the nature of the application. I also just wanted to say too that I went to a wonderful workshop on electrifying your home run by our environment team on Saturday morning at Ivanhoe Library. It was well attended with about 30 people, and if you're interested in these workshops, they're very practical in terms of how you can reduce energy costs and mitigate climate action in your own home. As well as, and this is where I got a lot of new information about new government rebates that are available to the public. We used a rebate to put in PV solar, and if people took advantage of that rebate, there are now new rebates available for additional savings. So that's worth knowing. And just to finish off, tomorrow, very exciting, we have the opening of Waterdale Road Pocket Park at 11 a.m. So if people are interested, I believe a few councillors will be attending. It's been a 3-year coming project, and we get to celebrate tomorrow. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Next up, we have Alison Champion.
Thanks very much, Mayor. On Tuesday, the 11th of July, Banyule Council's Economic Development team hosted another small business networking breakfast, which was attended by Councillor Tom Milliken and me. This month's networking event was held at Mabel Jones in Greensborough, and it was attended by many small business owners wanting to learn about social media and how to use it as a marketing tool. Many connections were also made with the possibility of sharing knowledge and networks to grow each other's businesses. And just as a side note, breakfast at Mabel Jones was delicious. The next economic development team hosted small business networking event is planned for Thursday evening, the 17th of August at Jaga Jaga in Greensborough. Now, registration is made via the Banyule Business e-newsletter, which usually shows up in your inbox, or at the Banyule website. So it's lots of fun, lots of opportunity at these events. So we'd love to see you at this one coming up at Jaga Jaga next month. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Next up, we have Councillor Fiona Mitsonikos.
Thanks, Mayor. It's the FIFA Women's World Cup time, and today Councillor Melican, Councillor Castaldo and myself, we attended the training session of the Canadian women's team at Olympic Park, and Uncle Charles Bacana did the welcome to country. Gosh, these women are super fit, and that goalkeeper, I think we were all sort of watching as those balls were just being kicked at her at, I don't know how fast, but it was, I wouldn't want to be in her position, let's just say that. But it was really great to watch the women training, and yeah, wish all of the teams good luck. It was a great chance to be down and see the action. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Next up, we have Councillor Mark Di Pasquale.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If I may acknowledge the time, effort and dedication shown by the performing arts students of Loyola College in Watsonia in bringing the live stage show All Shook Up to the Banyule community. The performances were delivered on July 13, 14 and 15 and were attended by many in our community. I would also like to acknowledge and thank the supporting teachers, students and families who made such a high quality, entertaining event for our community to engage in. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Rick Garotti.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I had the pleasure, along with our Mayor and our Deputy Mayor, to launch our community bus, which was Wednesday, I think, last week. So that arose from feedback that actually came to me throughout the 2020 election campaign around an appetite for a community bus. And we took that up as a notice of motion. Officers did a feasibility study. We identified a partner in Linked Transport. And yeah, just 2.5 years on, we've now launched the service. It is focused more in the south. So really from McLeod down to Ivanhoe, really hoping that it's a success. There's a brochure out there now and information on our website with the timetable, really encouraging people to engage. And it's exciting times. And yeah, again, thank you to the Councillor Group for support with that service, and to our Mayor and Deputy Mayor for being there on the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that's everything. It was a bit of a showcase of what's going on in Banyule. So I think that's great for our community to hear from. Next up, we move on to public questions. We have received 8 public questions. I now request Council Directors of Corporate Services, Mark Giulio, to read out the questions and Directors to read out Council's response. The public question will be included in the minutes of this meeting. The minutes will be available on our website later this week.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The first question is from Kelvin Granger and Dean Hurlston. And the question reads, can Council please advise the dollar amount of cost shifting from state government they estimate they incurred in the 2022-23 financial year? And I'll answer that question. So Council notes that cost shifting can take the form of reductions in funding for services, typically funded at higher levels by state government, and the transfer of responsibilities which previously sat with the state government. Council acknowledges that the roles and responsibilities of local government significantly increased over recent decades, whilst the provision of core services and the requirements remain. Programs such as maternal child health, school crossing supervisors, public libraries, landfill levy and waste services, electrical line clearance, and for some local government agencies, this relates to home community care programs as well. Other potential costs to councils such as cladding rectification program and other regulations that are imposed on council are considered cost-shifting examples. Banyule have advocated to the Premier of Victoria and the Municipal Association of Victoria and supported motions at the MAV State Council meetings regarding Council's concern about the extent of cost shifting from the state government to the local government sector, as we recognise that this can limit Council's ability to meet the future operational infrastructure needs of the community. Whilst it is difficult to quantify an estimate for any given financial year, and that's the same for all councils, we would confidently say that it would be in the order of approximately $4 to $5 million per annum. The next question is by a resident who would, at the request, have their name and address withheld. And the question reads, given through 2020 lockdowns, Council allowed for remote attendance, i.e. live and not pre-recorded, at Council meetings to both councils and community speakers, are there any foreseen difficulties that would prevent live remote attendance now being offered to the community in the request to speak process? I refer the response to Kristen Fort, Governance Coordinator.
Thank you. Throughout the COVID-19 lockdowns, Council allowed video recordings of community members' request to speak submissions, but at no time did community members dial in per se and engage with Council live in that meeting virtually. Council would need to consider compatibility requirements in line with the current and established IT setup here at Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub in the Council Chamber to determine whether community members could actually dial in and connect into the meeting moving forward.
Next question is from Susan Martin of Rosanna, and the question reads, the Banyule governance rules are currently open for community consultation until the 20th of July. However, with only 2 daytime in-person sessions, neither mentioned in the June banner, and no online forums offered, could Council extend the consultation period to offer more inclusive community discussion options? And I'll refer this response to Kristen Fort, Governance Coordinator.
Thank you. The Community Consultation Plan for Stage 2 Governance Rules Review included a combination of face-to-face engagement sessions which were held on alternate days of the week and at different venues across our municipality, both daytime and evening sessions. This plus our online survey, available through Shaping Banyule, opened on the 29th of June and closes on the 20th of July, so a total of 3 weeks, to engage broadly and fairly with a mix of cohorts in the community. In addition, targeted engagement has included the June edition of the Banyule banner, distributed to over 55,000 households and businesses across Banyule advising of the upcoming review, a reach of almost 7,000 people on Facebook, along with emails sent to approximately 1,135 people that have registered for updates on our Shaping Banyule page. Over 100 place cards have been left at our libraries and neighbourhood hubs and community centres, which were developed to promote the project and the consultation sessions. In line with the above, it is considered that the consultation period has been sufficient, and in line with the budget associated with the project, no more further online sessions will be scheduled. There is still an opportunity to participate via the Shaping Banyule page, and we strongly encourage all residents to do so via the Shaping Banyule link on our website.
Next question is from Alicia Curry from Rosanna, and the question reads, as the community shouldn't be expected to personally attend a council meeting to have a public question answered, Council currently provides not only a verbal response in the meeting, but a very important written record and response to the questions in the meeting minutes. And as there is no discussion to the contrary, can Council provide confirmation to the public that this transparent and inclusive recording of the public questions in the meeting minutes will be preserved? I refer the answer to Mr. Fort, Governance Coordinator.
Thank you. At this time, Council cannot provide confirmation as to whether any of the current or proposed processes in the governance rules, as our current rules adopted, or the governance rules that are in draft, will remain, as the consultation process has not concluded, and Council have not yet resolved on a set of rules yet. It is proposed that in September 2023, Council will adopt a set of governance rules, and the process around public participation and public question time will be detailed accordingly to guide the Council and the community on the public question time procedure.
Next question is from Robin Roberts, and the question reads, Councillors have often mentioned that limiting the number of community speakers relates to the length of council meetings, and yet voted to reduce the number of meetings significantly by holding meetings only every 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks. So what options are there for Council returning to meetings every fortnight, and can this option be added to the governance rules currently in review? I refer the answer to the Kristen Ford, Governance Coordinator.
Thank you. Each year, Council determined by resolution the ordinary Council meeting days for the forthcoming year. The 3 weekly Council meeting cycle has been customary in the past few years at Banyule, and the transaction of Council business at its meetings has continued in an efficient and effective way in connection with that scheduling of the Council meetings. The cycle has worked well in project delivery requirements, policy implementation and decision implementation process. It is important to note that Council have the ability at any time to call a special Council meeting if they require, that allows for an unscheduled or special meeting to occur outside of that ordinary schedule. This is rarely required though, due to the suitability of the current meeting frequency to Council to date, but is available nonetheless. It is also important to note that scheduling more frequent meetings unnecessarily would require budgetary considerations such as time, resources, personnel and IT requirements, just to name a few. Council can at any time change the schedule of its Council meetings via Council resolution, and Council is required to ensure that they comply with the governance rules. The cycle and the scheduling of Council meetings is separate to the governance rules review and is not included in that review.
Next question is from Jane Crone. The question reads, why is Council insisting on instructing residents to mainly use its code, website and digital technology as its preferred interaction, as well as requiring request to speak and public questions to be requested in writing and delivered to Greensborough, as was recently noted twice at its 2 public community participation governance forums, dates of which were not advertised in the June banner, as this greatly restricts the involvement of many of the elderly and often most vulnerable and marginalised long-term residents, when the more accessible Ivanhoe Service Centre could be used, as well as on occasion, hard paper copies for some, such as surveys. And I refer the answer to Kristen Fort, Governance Coordinator.
Thank you. Council acknowledges that there are different accessibility requirements for residents and there are preferences for engagement, both digital and in person. Currently, Council makes available a variety of options for both hard copy and electronic submissions for Council meeting, public question and the request to speak process. The governance rules are in draft and, as mentioned before, out for consultation. As this feedback has been provided by residents engaged in the community consultation sessions held to date, promoting the need to retain and expand hard copy submissions for both Greensborough but also for Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub. This will be considered in the context of the rules review.
Next question is from Simon Conisby from Heidelberg. And the question reads, Manningham Council's FOGO program gave each household a roll of 100 certified AS4736 biodegradable bags to use in their FOGO bins, whereas Banyule Council's program does not allow biodegradable bags for their FOGO bins. Therefore, why is there a difference in the approach to FOGO between councils within Banyule, excluding the use of AS4736 biodegradable bags? I refer the answer to Darren Bennett, Director of Assets and City Services.
Thank you. Biodegradable bags are not permitted under the contractual arrangements Banyule has with its processor. Collected food organic and garden organics, FOGO, goes to the Veolia Organic Processing Facility in Bullard, Victoria. There it takes 6 to 10 days to be turned into compost, which is then used to enrich the soil at farms, parks and gardens. Nuts tied into compostable bags do not break down during the composting process. This essentially looks like plastic. Farmers can be very reluctant to put products that look like plastic onto their farms. This can result in high quality compost that just look bad being used for lesser value purposes such as mining rehabilitation. All bags are removed by our processor, including contents, as bags are often used to hide contamination. Not permitting bags allows contamination to be easily detected, which reduces the risk to waste workers and creates a better product that is more widely used, which is better for the circular economy.
Next question is from Rowan Harrison in relation to Mount Eagle Estate. Our association has members who reside in Mount Eagle Estate and are very concerned and aggravated about the illegal paling fencing that is contrary to a restrictive covenant that was erected in late May 2023 on a section of Banyule Council and Heritage Victoria Controlled Carriageway. So So what is the timeline for the rectification of the paling fence? And a further question to Joel Albon, Acting Director, City Development.
Thank you. Council's Municipal Laws team is aware of the paling fencing which has been constructed. Limited information can be shared for privacy reasons. However, our Municipal Laws representatives are working with the landowner to achieve compliance, which will be achieved in the coming weeks. It is noted that the fence does not pose a public safety issue.
Thank you to the community members that submitted the questions and the officers for reading them out. I think that's our record for tonight, 8 questions. We now move on to the closure of the meeting. There is no confidential meeting tonight, and I now close the meeting at 9:18. Thank you to everyone in the audience this evening and those online. The next ordinary meeting of council will be held on Monday, the 7th of August, 2023. Thank you.